Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Claim What's Yours. I'm your host Vaughan Reinecker, and continuing with our trifecta of declined claims by insurers, I'd like to now provide you with some additional information about the claims that happened and where the insurers declined the claims, and we'll come into some specifics about what happened. So obviously we won't disclose the name of the client nor the insurer, but the circumstances will be near enough for you to understand what happened and why the claim was declined and what remedy we've taken with the insurer to try and get the claim paid. So this could lead into a couple of minutes, so let's get started. So leading insurer in the South African market declined a claim for a client that we took over late last year. So we weren't the holding broker at the time of the loss. We took the account over earlier this year, and this particular loss had already taken place. So as we always say, the circumstances of the claim are known. Had it happened, we can't influence what happened, and we're not here to influence what happened, but the interpretation of what happened and the circumstances surrounding what happened, that is often where there's confusion with the insurer or the insurance company interpreted differently. And this is exactly what happened in this particular claim. So let me give you the circumstances. Claim was about 60,000 Rand, 60, for water damage to a property. So in this particular instance, there's a building owned by one company, and that building is provided across. So when you move into a shopping center, generally the shopping center will give you the premises without anything in it. So they'll give you a basin. That's about it. There's no tiles, there's no flooring, there's no fixtures or fittings, and that's up to the tenant who occupies the premises to fit those items as per their specifications. So they'd get a shop fitter in, and they'd put in carpets, flooring, whatever they wanted to do in the particular property and make it suit their requirements. So this is the circumstances surrounding this loss that our client suffered. Our client is the building owner. And what had happened in this instance, there was water damage to the premises, which happened late last year. And the tenant in the premises had notified their insurers that they'd had water damage at the property. There was a burst pipe inside the property which caused damage to the contents of their property. Cupboards, cabinets, flooring, etc. So the tenant quite correctly notified their insurer, and their insurance company appointed an assessor, got quotes, confirmed the cause of losses covered as water, and confirmed the quantum of the claim, paid the claim. And then what happened is, while the tenant was looking at the repairs, they said, but hold on a second, there's a whole lot of stuff in this property that doesn't belong to us. So now, one of the main principles of insurance is that you are not allowed to insure somebody else's stuff. You've got no insurable interest. So I can't insure somebody else's car, whether they're a good risk or a bad risk, because I can profit out of something that I've got no interest in. I didn't buy it or didn't own it. So insurance specifically says you are not permitted to insure something that does not belong to you. So the tenant correctly said, hold on a second, there's a whole lot of stuff in this property that was already here when I moved in. I didn't fix this or put it in, and my insurance company are not going to pay for those items. So the insurance company correctly said, yes, there's a whole lot of interior fittings in the property, fittings on the floor that were clearly water damaged, that the insurance company, that the tenant's insurer said, I'm not paying. This happened last year. Claim was paid, tenant got the money, and they said, but hold on a second, guys, this year, hey, why has this stuff in our premises not been repaired? It's not ours to claim on, therefore we can't claim it. And why haven't you, as the property owner, repaired the stuff? Our client is then notified as the property owner to say, listen, hey, you need to put in a claim. We put in a claim. What does the insurer say? The insurer says, sorry guys, it's late notified. We're not going to consider the claim, and that's the reason they declined the claim. We're not going to consider the claim because it's late notification of the claim, and because you didn't notify us on time, you didn't give us the opportunity to look at the claim, to investigate the cause of the loss, and to confirm the quantum of the claim, we're not going to pay. Thanks guys, cheers, bye bye, see you later. If you don't like what we say, you can come back to us and claim it from us, or you can go to the complaints division at the particular insurance company, and then they'll make a call. So now, so we get this information and we do a little bit digging on our side. And we say, well, hold on a second. This doesn't quite sound right. And why are the insurer declining this claim? This doesn't sound right. There seems to be something wrong here. So anyway, we look into the matter. And this particular insurer's policy consists of 183 pages. But contained in that 183 pages, there is one clause which we know exists. And what we did is we went into the insurer's wording, we pulled up the clause, and we said, okay, here is the clause that we're going to go back to our insurers, the property owners' insurers, to say, hey, you say it's late notified. We're going to invoke this clause in your wording, which you include, and on that basis, we're going to ask you to consider payment of the claim. What that clause is, I'll tell you in a future episode. No, guys, I'm only kidding. That clause is contained on a building policy, and the clause is called a tenant's clause. So effectively, what the banks did, and this is how we understand it, the banks did some while ago when they issued covers, is that the banks would only allow you to insure the building through their insurers, through the bank's insurers. And that was sort of anti-competitive behavior. So the bank said, hold on a second, if we're going to let somebody else insure our asset, we must make sure that if the tenant does anything inside that property, the insurer cannot hold it against us as the property owner and not pay the claim. So, for example, the tenant occupies the premises, occupies my building as the bank. I own the building because I'm financing it now. So there's a landlord and there's a financier. The tenant says, yes, I'm using this as offices. But meantime, the tenant's using it to manufacture fireworks. A fire happens, the premises burns down. The tenant's clause says quite clearly that the actions of the tenant cannot prejudice the cover of the property owner. Quite important that. The actions of the tenant cannot prejudice the claim of the property owner. Unless, did the property owner know that the person was using it as a fireworks place? No, they didn't. The guy said, no, we're renting it out as offices. But surreptitiously, nice word, they were using it to manufacture fireworks. That's the example I'm giving you, from one extreme to the other. So what happened in this particular instance, we said to the insurer, but hold on a second. The tenant had reported the claim to their insurer. They failed to notify you of the claim, but an independent insurer had already assessed the claim, had agreed the cause of loss and agreed the quantum, and had paid the claim. And now you're saying you're not going to pay the claim because it's late notified. So we're saying, in terms of the tenant's clause, we don't believe you can rely on any exclusion because the actions of the tenant by failing to notify the property owner timeously, so there's an 8-month difference between when the claim was reported and when the claim was reported to the tenant's insurers and the property owner insurers, there was an 8-month difference. And correctly, the insurer said, I'm not paying. So we're saying, no, you can't do that. Tenant's clause says that failure by the tenant to do something or not to do something cannot prejudice the cover under my policy. And that is the basis of the clause, which is automatically included in our client's policy wording, that we went back to the leading insurer and said, guys, here is the clause. We are saying you've included this clause. And in terms of this clause, the tenant failed to notify the property owner of the claim. The property owner would have notified you. And that action or that omission cannot prejudice us. Please pay the claim. Pieces of paper already been sent off to the insurer. It's only 60,000 Rand, but 60,000 Rand is quite a lot of money to our client, and it's important to us. We know that when we place our clients' insurance, we place it correctly, and we're here to get our clients paid through any legitimate means. Submitted to the insurer, we're waiting for their outcome. We will let you know what the insurer's outcome is of the claim and let you know whether they accepted the clause that is automatically included in the policy wording. This is what we do for our clients. This is why we're in our business. This is what we do. We're a personal service, short-term insurance broker. We know our clients They know us. It's not a big factory. It's a personalized insurance service. This is what we do for our clients, so we must be able to look them in the eye and say, guys, you've had a claim. We're going to sort this claim. We're going to manage this claim. And we managed to find one clause. It may be about 40 words in our 183 policy document to try and assist our client. And I think that's also quite important. We're trying to assist. We didn't guarantee it. We said that we don't believe that what the insurer did is correct or fair. And we as their insurance broker are here to fight the fight for them and make sure that we get them a fair deal. Legitimately, of course. Guys, if you would like some assistance on any claims that you believe should have been paid by your insurer, or that your broker should have pressed a little bit harder on, or maybe they didn't have the skill or the knowledge to know that there was a clause in your policy wording that they could have invoked to try and get the insurer to overturn their decision, send us an email, like, subscribe.